Hello everyone. During this lesson, we will familiarize ourselves with the topic of tuples in the Python language. Tuples are essentially similar to lists, with two main differences. Once you have added elements to a tuple, you cannot modify these elements afterward. In other words, a tuple acts as a constant where you add values, and these values remain unchanged. Additionally, tuples occupy less memory compared to lists. For this reason, tuples are often used more frequently in programs when passing data. Let's create our first tuple. Tuples are created in the same way as lists, but while we use square brackets for lists, we use round brackets for tuples. Then, the rest of the process proceeds just like with lists. Let's input some values here. Here, I'll have some numbers, a Boolean value, a floating point number, and a string. Next, if I try to access a specific element, it works the same way in tuples as it does in lists. We still use square brackets. So, if I want to display the number 6, I need to access this element by its index. I know that this element is at the second position, which means I need to access it by the index 1. If I run this, I'll see the number 6. Also, referring back to the previous topic, I can specify a slice here as well. Let's say I specify that I want elements from the first index up to the 5th element. If I run this, I'll see all the elements. Notice that when we print the elements, we use round brackets because this is a tuple. Let's also try to modify an element here. I'll try to access the first element and set it to some number. If we try to run this, we'll notice an error, indicating that we cannot reassign values in tuples. Tuples have their own set of functions. However, if we compare tuples to lists, lists have a vast array of functions for modification, deletion, addition of values, and so on. When it comes to tuples, there are fewer functions available. One such function is count, which allows us to count the number of occurrences of a particular element. Let's try to count how many occurrences of the number 6 we have in our tuple. If we run this, we'll see the number 2 because we have 2 such elements. If we input a non-existent value here, it will return 0 because such elements were not found. Additionally, apart from count, there's another function called len, which allows us to obtain the length of the entire tuple. If we run this, we'll notice that it outputs the number 8, indicating that our tuple contains a total of 8 elements. Of course, besides all these functions, you can simply print this tuple to the screen by specifying the tuple's name within parentheses. Additionally, let's consider how tuples can be created. In fact, tuples can be created without using round brackets. I can simply remove the brackets here and write some elements separated by commas, and the data types can be different. If I run this, we'll see in the output that this indeed is a tuple. At the same time, if I leave round brackets in the tuple with only one element, it will not be considered a tuple anymore. As you can see, there are no additional round brackets added, and it is displayed as just a single element. However, if you want it to be a tuple, you just need to add a comma after the number, and you don't even need to specify any other numbers. If I run this, you can see that it is now displayed as a tuple. Additionally, you can simply remove the brackets and specify the elements separated by commas. This will still be the same tuple. Now, let's place the same elements as we had last time and try to iterate through the entire tuple using a loop. We can use any loop, but the for loop will be the most convenient for iterating through the same lists, dictionaries, and other things that we will study later on. Here, I'm just creating a new variable element and then specifying that I'm iterating through a tuple called data. Then, to print each individual element, we use the standard print function, and that's it. So, you can notice that the output of lists, as well as tuples, is no different. You can use the same loop for both, and here, all the elements indeed got printed on the screen. Moreover, if you have a certain list in your program, you can convert it into a tuple. To do this, I need to create a new variable, let's call it new data. To convert our list into a tuple, I need to use the keyword tuple and pass one parameter inside. In our case, it will be the list nums. Now, all we need to do is to print this to the screen. If we run this, we'll see that earlier we had a list, and now it's specifically a tuple because it's enclosed in round brackets. Thus, tuples are essentially the same as lists, except that we cannot modify the data in tuples. Additionally, tuples occupy less memory. Well, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new lessons. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye.